Hi everyone, I wanted to make another video here to give an update on where things are with my Enterprise D build. Last time, in the last video, I said I was going to start working on drilling out windows, and I have gotten exactly this far. One side of the neck, all windows drilled out. And as you can see, it's a bit of a Frankenstein's monster. And how did we get to this point? Well, in my last video, I think I was planning on doing, taking an X-Acto knife and heating up the blade and trying to sort of melt through the heated X-Acto blade method. And that was a terrible failure. So I had a lot of people in my comments say, you need to get a pin vise. And that was the best advice, a pin vise, best advice, pin vise, advice, vice, ever. Because it allowed me then to also get some very small drill bits, which I used to then drill little holes in each one of these windows and then cut out with the X-Acto knife, which worked really well for most of it. But up here in the front, you can see that I have done a lot of rebuilding of things. This little guy, that's the front windows of this right here. And I had gotten them all drilled out, teeny tiny. But the plastic got so weak by doing that, there was one day where I was doing something else over here and my finger slipped and I grabbed onto this and it just the whole thing popped right out. But so I realized that with a lot of this little stuff, it's easier and looks a lot better in the end to actually just cut this whole front section out and rebuild it with strip styrene. And this is 0.4 millimeters by 1.5 millimeters. So that's the thickness and the width. And that worked pretty dang well for rebuilding this curve and the little windows, horizontal, the vertical through there, and then all of these little ones in the front that are really small and really close together. So in addition to building this front here, I wound up cutting off this bottom part and building in basically another deck there to kind of bump up the height of the whole thing. The photo reference that I found online showed that this bottom row of windows was higher than it is actually molded on the kit. So I bumped that up. The rest of this white that you see is perfect plastic putty. I filled in some holes where I cut windows in the wrong spots. So I've spent the last 5-ish months drilling and cutting and recutting and filling holes and re-drilling holes and reconstructing parts that totally broke off. A 5-month process of trial and error and psychosis, which we will call window madness. Or since we're talking about Star Trek and the Enterprise, we can call it space madness. But then we went to Disney World for 2 weeks and came back and everything was fine. But I'm feeling better now because I've learned a lot while doing this. I haven't a game plan now for this side. And I want to show you actually here, if I can get some light behind this. So there you can kind of see how that's going to look when it's lit up from behind. Yeah, so, you know, not too bad, I think. And I'm pretty happy with it. And what we're going to do is replicate what we did here in a lot more clean and planned out way on this side. So I kind of wanted to walk through that process of turning something like this into something like this. So here's our one that we already got done. And here's our next victim. So we're going to turn this into this, hopefully. First thing I want to do is cut the bottom off there so that we can add this additional quote-unquote deck. X-Acto knife, nice sharp blade on it. Using this little lip here as my guide. We're not going to follow the curve, we're going to go straight across. So that'll give us a nice flat place to add that extra layer of plastic there. I mean, this is a weird curvy shape, but really you cut it, they can be cut into flat decks. So that's what we're going for here. I am just going to start in with this. Start kind of just shaving along that, using that lip as a guide. So here, I don't know if you can see this, like right along the underside of that lip there is where I'm cutting. Don't get too crazy. Just go right along. You can take your time. Whoosh. This is going to take some time. Don't go quick. Don't go quick. Especially when you get to the curve over here. We're not going to go around the curve. We're going to go straight across. Tricky part is now you don't have that curve to follow, so you kind of have to just, there's two scored lines, and you kind of just have to split the difference right down the middle of them. Line in between those other two lines. And right across that curve, just follow, and go straight across all the way to the end. So then as you start to get your groove made, your knife is going to just kind of want to follow that groove. So you don't need to press down very hard, just let the knife do the work. And another thing to watch out for is as you're cutting this, you're going to be putting pressure down on this piece, and since it's curved, that's going to stress that curve. To keep it stable, I recommend put your pressure right here on the front of the neck, because that part will stay flat. Don't put pressure on this back part, because that'll start to crack. So when you're pulling your knife across, like I said, let the knife do the work. So you want to be real careful that you don't press down really hard, because then you're just going to crack, which actually happened to me on this one. You can't really see it. It's up a little bit, but there is a crack right through there where this was getting too much pressure put down on it, and it split. And then so on the back side here, once you get kind of cut through, it actually is going to come out right along the top of this lip that's back here. So that's another good guide. Once you start to make your way through it, the tip of your knife is going to poke out pretty much right there along that ridge. Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. I can sort of start to see the line coming through on the back. Oh, see? Oh, starting to come through right where I said, right along that line. Oh, we made it through. We made it through right there. Woo-woo! Oh, we're starting to get some separation. Been at this for about half an hour. And making good progress. Oh, I think I felt us go through another spot here. Woo, 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 woo. Getting closer. Ooh, so close. Keep it coming. Nice and gentle. Be gentle. Hey, opa! There it is. Ta-da! Keep that handy because we're going to glue that back on in a little bit. But now we've got this separated. Isn't that fun? Now that we have this separated, I'm going to take some sandpaper. This is 150. And I'm just going to kind of smooth out our little cuts here. Okay. We'll do the same thing on here. Just a little. Okay. All right. Now what we want to do is get our strip styrene. And what we want to do is kind of make it a little longer than we need it. And we're not worried about the curve yet. We're just gonna kind of get a length here that's longer than what we want. Okay, and we just cut it like that. And then we're gonna do a few more of those. So I think be about 3 or 4 of this same length. Just kind of measure it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just cut. Get one more. Make it roughly the same length. And boop. There we go. What we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of make this into a sandwich. Stack them up so that we kind of get like a thicker piece. First thing we want to do is glue one end of this together. And then we're going to take this stuff, Plastruct, plastic weld. Not only does it like adhere together, it actually melts the plastic into one piece. And spread it all around the end there. After a few seconds, it's going to turn that into one solid chunk at the end. But notice I didn't do it all the way across because we want the rest of this to remain flexible, okay? So we just want it to stick together at one end. And this is not the right thickness yet. I'm gonna add another one on here. But as you can see, like it's gonna really just line up with that bottom part. So it looks like we need maybe 1 or 2 more strips. Boop. There's 1. Here's 2. Come on. There you go. Now, we will take this. We will line it up like that. Right there. Boop, boop. Right on the end underneath. You can see it's all welded together at that end, but then here it's all still loosey-goosey. Because as we're trying to make this curve, if we were to glue this all together, it would become too stiff to bend the right way. So what we're going to do is glue one end, let that set, and then strategically we will work our way down and curve and bend and glue as we go along. And as we glue as we go along too, that will help kind of weld this whole thing together, and it'll weld it right to that. And that's going to be beautiful. And then we'll come out, hopefully, like that. Let's start with this. And this guy up again. Some on there, and we're just going to put it right there on the front. Just on the top of that where we cut it. And we want this to be glued on with the stack going this way so that we can make the bends going like that. If we did it this way, they're all stacked on top of each other and we can't curve in that direction. So it's got to be this way. So we're going to line this up right there. And I'm going to put it over the edge just a little bit. Hold it there. Let that melt together. We can even take some of this and kind of put it on the back here. A little bit on the front. Once that's done, it will be pretty much just like one piece of plastic. We left these loose so that, because this side is going to be at a different curve than the inside. So we want to keep them loose until we make that curve. Like this, and we'll just go, and it'll seep down into the cracks between. See how we're starting to follow that curve? This. That. Right here. Can you see that? How it's following that curve? So then we'll kind of bend it this way. Keep on there. And this is the reason why I made it longer than necessary. It's because when we come back to this and we glue it on, we're gonna put this back farther so that this continues the back straight like that. Here, you know what else we'll do is we'll run just on the top of that, and what that'll do is seep down in between those pieces and meld those together. And then we'll finish it off here on the end like this. Put it there. Whoop. And bend it. Follow that curve. So yeah, we've got 1, 2, 3, 5 strips sandwiched together. Is just like the perfect width to fit right along that bottom of that neck. Just like that. That's really it. That's it. And it's on there. It's it's not going anywhere. And then the next thing we're going to do is take this guy that we cut off and stick it back on. And we're going to line up the back so that the angle continues. We'll run another zoop of that across the top. And stick this guy on, just like that. You see how I'm making sure that the angle of that continues through. Now, so here is a little bit of a tricky thing. You want this front part to be offset a little bit because there's that lip there that we want to maintain, which we can do on the front and scooch it over and hold it right where, so it's kind of splitting the difference. Can you see that in the front? We're going to come back to our pieces of the plastic strip that we didn't use the first time. And I'm going to kind of glue one along the back of there to hold that on. And we'll just go bloop right along the back. And then we'll stick this guy right there. And this is inside, so I'm not too concerned about it being pretty back here. So I think that's dry enough now to where we can take our knife and we will kind of start angling off this, and we're just keeping the knife like flat to this angle. We can start to just cut this off. There it comes. There we go. We're getting there. Yeah. All right. We got it. Flush. We got the same thing over here. Flush and flush. Boop, boop, boop. It's gonna be easier. Whoa! That'll just shoot right off. Okay. And there we have our finished extension deck, if we want to call it that. The next thing is cut out this front area for these windows. There's this first deck where it has the two angled windows at the front. And we're just going to cut in on the line and then go right along the edge of those windows all the way up to here. And we'll cut out there. So we'll wind up cutting out this entire sort of front section. Won't that be fun? Aren't we excited? Right kind of here. Right there, we're gonna make a little bit. Kind of wiggle that in, start to chop. Right now I'm cutting out the portion of the front that has the two windows, and then I'm going to work my way up to the section that just has one. Pop out. Come on, pop out. There it is. Ah. So now we've got this notch in the front. Okay. So what you want to end up with is something like this, where you have chunked out that, and then you chunk out this smaller bit, like that. And then what we want to do is cut further in here for this little row of windows, which is this here. we're going to put in later. Okay, so now I am cutting out this bit here, which is for that front row of windows. They're all really tiny and next to each other. Oh, there it is. All right. So, I'll come away with something looks like an E. E for Enterprise. But that's going to make it a lot easier to build those windows in the front rather than try and drill them out. Now that we've got that cut out, I have kind of held this together a little bit so you can see what we're doing here. So what we've done is you can see where those windows are going to go in that space. And so we're going to build that out with more styrene strips so that it's like that. So you can see what I started doing here is lining that space that I cut out with the styrene strips and the plastic weld to make it a flat edge. We're just kind of making the frame of those windows, so to speak. Okay, so I've got a bit of the structure built in there, as you can see, kind of the main window frames without the individual windows. And what I'm working on right now is just getting this in place. And this is going to be what recreates our curve on the neck, just like this one. And so what I want to do is kind of hold these together, match up where they're going to meet, and then try and recreate that curve angle so that it matches the other side. Once I get that where I want it, I'm going to put some weld right there at the end, at the tip, and just lay that down so it glues. And that will retain that curve. And then that's what that looks like when we get it glued on there. Okay, so fast forward a little bit, and I have built in the bottom set of windows and started in on the top set. Realized that I had cut too big of a section out the first time because there's only 3 rows of 2 windows, and the front curve strip that I glued on, I added a second one, so it's 2 strips thick. And then here's a quick look at how I'm putting in those little windows, basically using a X-Acto blade as the width of each window. And then I cut a small strip of styrene, again using that X-Acto blade as a spacer, glue the styrene in, and then once I take that X-Acto blade out, it will leave a nice little window in there. And that's how I'm doing that. And then here is the final result. With all those windows put in, and we're ready to move on to drilling out all the rest. Before I start drilling out the rest of the windows though, I'm going to thin out the plastic a little bit here with my Dremel tool, and that's going to make it easier to get the drill in through all the plastic. And you can tell here where I've done that, where the light is shining through more easily than the rest. So once that's done, I just take in my pin vise here and drilling in 2 holes for each window, one at the top and one at the bottom. And then I take my X-Acto knife and cut out in between those 2 holes. And one other thing I like to do is take some of this abrasive wire, a little piece like that and just kind of thread it through each window to help clean it out a little bit. And there you can see the final result, a nice little window there. And all we have to do now is do that to the rest of this piece, and then we should be good to go. So that's where things are at. And that's where things will be until next time, when I will hopefully have some more progress on this neck. And so we'll see you then. Thanks.